Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
There's no turning back now.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Brian
and Kirsten.
So we've got a fun topic this week. We're going to do some discussion about some rides that we never got to experience that we wish we did. But first, as always, let's start things off with the news. First thing that we've gotten here is that a new Legacy lightsaber is coming to Doc Onders. This fall, it looks like we're getting the lightsaber of Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars. It's exciting that they're still adding things to Galaxy's Edge, even if it's just like Legacy lightsabers and stuff like that. I'm happy they're going to continue to add stuff in there.
Yeah. Little stuff like this, though, I think it's kind of what makes it, they'll constantly be able to do this as it goes on and kind of add more from the very expansive lore of Star Wars.
Yeah, and there's so much that they can keep adding. It could go on literally forever.
Mm-hmm.
Did this have anything to do with Ashley Eckstein? Because I saw her, did she do this or something? I saw a picture of her at Disneyland or Disney World doing something.
She is the voice of Ahsoka. So She got to be there when they unveiled her lightsaber.
Gotcha.
I think she actually announced it too. She did, yes. But she's been exclusively in the Clone Wars. The character is going to be in the next season of The Mandalorian, supposedly. But that character was exclusive to the Clone Wars, and she did the voice all through the Clone Wars. And
I didn't realize that she was like an actress or voice actress, whatever. I just knew her from her universe.
So next topic we've got on here, some Disney deals coming out. We've got the Magic is Here Disney Vacation Package, which will allow guests to save up to $500 on their Disney World vacation. The Magic is Here package is a 4-night, 4-day package that is valid for most nights from September 4th through December 25th. And with that comes a 40% annual pass holder room discount offer through Christmas as well, which both of those seem like pretty decent offers.
It is a pretty good offer.
Well, so the Magic is Here offer, I read Tom Bricker's, he went over it today and he did the math and said that it's really not a good deal. Like he couldn't find a situation in which anybody was saving more than 8 to 10%.
Oh.
Yeah, that tends to be the case on a lot of those package things.
He does every offer that comes out. He does the math on them. So if anybody's ever interested, they should go read his blog, and he'll tell you all about it.
Yes, absolutely. I do think the 40% pass holder discount is pretty solid, but I'm always a fan of room discounts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing we have on here is that a list of walk-up dining has been released for September 2020. We have at the Magic Kingdom, Be Our Guest, Skipper Canteen, Liberty Tree Tavern, Plaza Restaurant, and Tony's Town Square. Hollywood Studios has 50s Primetime, Mama Melrose, Oga's Cantina, Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater, Hollywood Brown Derby. Epcot's got Beer Garden, Coral Reef, Garden Grill, Le Cellier, Rose and Crown, and Animal Kingdom has Tiffin's. The resort restaurants that are open are Ale and Compass, Beaches and Cream, California Grill, Chef Mickey's, Grand Floridian Cafe, Kona Cafe, Olivia's Cafe, Sanaa, The Wave of American Flavors. I never know how to pronounce this one. Topolino's Terrace.
Sounds right.
Sure. And the Whispering Canyon. Do any of these surprise anyone?
I'm kind of more surprised as to what I'm not seeing.
Yes.
Which is Casey's.
I am very surprised by that. I know I didn't know that wasn't open until I saw Beth posting on her Instagram this week that Casey's was closed. I was very upset about that.
Yeah, because it was closed when I went too, and I don't know. I feel like that is kind of the staple of Magic Kingdom quick service dining, and the fact that it's not open is very surprising. When all this other stuff is opening back up, I would have thought that would have been the first one that they wanted.
Do you think it's because it's like people cram in there like so close together and it's really small, and they feel like they wouldn't be able to keep people distanced?
I feel like that might have something to do with it, but at the same time, I feel like they would be able to manage it. You know, a lot of these other ones are going to see some of that too. I guess it's not enclosed necessarily at a lot of these places, but I don't know. I feel like Disney would be able to manage letting X amount of people in at a time.
I think the size is the only reason I can find for it being closed. I mean, out of anything else, it's the perfect kind of restaurant that you would want during this situation because it is a counter service. You walk in, you get your food, you walk out. Some things on here that surprised me, they're like sci-fi dine-in. How are they doing that as a walk up?
Wow. Yeah,
people walk up, they see that the food is gross, then they leave.
But then even stuff like beer garden, that one really surprised me because it's a buffet. Like,
oh yeah, that would be, man, you would lose out on like 90% of the experience of eating at beer garden if you just did a quick service.
I've seen videos inside there and they're still doing the show too, which I don't know how that's working. I'm kind of curious. I think
I'll see them still doing the show, I guess, as long as they're spacing out people at tables, but yeah, I don't get how they're running the buffet more than anything.
Yeah. I know so far, kind of like teasing our next episode, I guess, when Beth comes back and does her trip report. I know she went to Sanaa, so I'm going to be interested to see how her experience with some of these like table service as walk-ups are, like in terms of like what they've converted them to. Because some of these things on this list are like, wow, that's not what I expected to be open.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, guess we'll get more on that next week. But for now, let's dive into our topic. Actually, supposed to plug our Patreon as a housekeeping. Before we do that, because we have our game night episode is going to be coming up relatively soon, and we are going to do a like temporary perk where we allow any of our patrons to enter for the chance to be on that episode. So if you listened last year and heard our game night episode, it's tons of fun. Definitely something that I'm
for sure.
Definitely something I'm looking forward to, and giving people the chance to participate in it that may have not gotten the chance before is going to be nice. So definitely fun. Definitely check out the Patreon and join for the chance to be on that episode. So that said, let's dive into our topic of this week of extinct attractions that we wish we were able to experience. I think this topic kind of came up in our Discord, and somebody suggested that we do a show about attractions we never got to experience but wish we did. I feel like there's going to be some bleed over of like attractions we wish we got to experience again. I'm sure that'll come up. But yeah, so where do we want to start with this one? Does anybody have one in particular that they want to start with?
I'm curious. I'm looking at our list here about who put Alien Encounter.
I put Alien Encounter specifically because there is that whole like, you know, everybody talks about it in the sense of like that was Disney's scariest attraction and all that, and I never got to experience it.
I didn't realize that you didn't do it.
I never did.
I had that on my list too.
I
remember vividly that there was like a Travel Channel episode about Disney World with like Samantha Brown or something, and Extraterrestrial was one of the rides featured, and I knew it was scary, but it kind of was always one of those things where I was like, wow, I want to go to Disney World so I can ride that.
See, that's kind of like the place that I'm at with it too. Like I never got to experience it, and seeing so much about it, like I wish I did. You also have to remember that I didn't really start going to Disney until like 2000, I think 7 was the first year we went to Disney. I'm probably wrong on that. So I don't know.
I went
but
once in 9th grade, and then I didn't go back till I graduated from high school. So it was, similar boat.
yeah.
So is it just kind of the allure of it being that like kind of infamous attraction that makes you want to do it?
Yeah.
For me, yeah, definitely. I don't think that, we've talked extensively about that attraction and Stitch's Great Escape in comparison. And I feel like it's close enough that like I kind of understand what I'm getting into with it. Like if I were to go back in time and experience this attraction. But I don't think that I would enjoy it. I feel like it would be one of those like, that was a thing I did.
Yeah, I think I would hate it. Absolutely.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I honestly feel like it's just one of those things that I feel like I need to do just to say I did it.
Yeah. And for me, it's like the huge just remembering, because that's like the only exposure I had to Disney for so long. It's the same thing with Dueling Dragons at Universal. I remember those commercials for that ride when it first opened, and I was like, I want to do that.
Well, kind of on that same note, I have Snow White's Scary Adventure on here too, which I know I'm pretty sure I didn't do, because I remember being like very terrified of that attraction. And I specifically remember being terrified because the channel in the room that would tell you like the things that you could do at the parks, I remember them talking about how terrifying it was, and I refused to ride it.
It was a terrifying attraction. I distinctly remember doing this, and then I also went back and I forget what topic we were on. Maybe I just gone down a rabbit hole researching something else, but I went back and watched a ride through of this, and geez, this thing was extremely scary for a kid's ride.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Heffalump scene. It's like weird that it's child appropriate. I don't know.
The Heffalump scene has always been one that I've just never quite understood, because I can see how that would be terrifying for a little kid, but it's just right in the middle of the attraction.
The thing I really didn't get about Snow White's Scary Adventures is that it seemed like a very odd kind of theme to do an attraction around that didn't really feel like it matched the rest. Like it didn't match its source material that well, I thought.
Yeah. There are a lot of places they could have gone.
I guess. I mean, like I said, I've never really gotten to experience it. So
I mean, just in the fact that, I mean, Snow White has a lot of cool imagery, like a lot of like beautiful forest scenery that you could base, an attraction around. It does seem very odd to focus on this kind of very small snippet of the movie that was somewhat scary and like base an entire attraction around that.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any other ones they want to
take
before I go through my list?
Are we just going like one at a time?
You could do however. I feel like this one's going to be more of just a free-form discussion because there's probably a lot of decent overlap.
I put Superstar Limo just once because of the share nod, obviously.
That's another attraction that honestly fascinates me because it feels like it never should have happened.
It shouldn't have. You're very right.
And I think a lot of that is like where the fascination with these attractions comes from. Like the whole aspect of the ride being changed so last minute and still being pushed to open is like kind of interesting. And then I think it also helps that the attraction wasn't open very long.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, and also the fact that it wasn't open very long, like begs the question of, did it really need to be open at all? I get that they were trying to rush and have stuff there for, the opening of California Adventure. But if after a year you say, okay, we can shut this down because it's that bad, it's like, okay, then you probably could have gotten away with just not having that attraction there when you open.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what does he say with in Jurassic Park? They're so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
That's a very good comparison, though. I mean,
Yeah.
oh,
And there's no way. I mean, you know, the Imagineers that worked on this realized that they were putting out an inferior product. There's no way they were like all patting themselves on the back thinking this was going to be a smash hit.
It's kind of like movies, right? Whenever bad movies get put out, you kind of wonder, like, were they all fooling themselves? Like, what? How was the?
Who thought this was a good idea?
So, like, maybe then Superstar Limo could have stuck around as kind of being like, you know, the room of Disney attractions where it's just like that bad that it kind of has a cult following with how bad it is. But we'll never
Maybe.
know.
I mean, we'll never know at this point.
Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, goodness.
We're making some deep cuts there.
I've never seen the whole movie, but I've watched snippets of it because people talk about it online so much. And good Lord, that is some nightmare fuel.
I just remember it
I feel like that's all you really need to.
I really wanted to throw up because it was just like gross. I don't know. Like, you all know I don't like gross stuff. That's why I don't like Treasure Planet.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with that one.
Sorry.
That's okay. I don't know. There are a lot of Disneyland things that I thought about too that I was like, I wish I got to experience that. But I also feel like Disneyland as a whole is something I would like to have experienced.
Same here.
Yeah. I put flying saucers from Disneyland.
Oh, the bumper hover things.
Yeah, because of One Man's Dream, you know, there's that clip of it with like all the balloons falling, like when they first opened, and I don't know, it just feels like something that I want to see for myself.
Well, didn't they try to do that with the Luigi's flying tires, and it just didn't work out?
I think so.
The whole concept of that ride is super cool because I get where they were going with it. Like, they were trying to make almost futuristic bumper cars, but the fact that it just didn't land the way that it should have is probably my favorite part about that attraction. That's one that's like, in retrospect, that was so dangerous. Why did it happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like, you know, it's one of those attractions that is not going to be able to move a lot of people through it. So if, you know, Disney's not going to pour a lot of time and effort into making it work if it's not going to be a people eater. So
That's true. So I had on mine the original Skyway, more just to kind of compare it with the gondola system we have now. I know that they're kind of like a little bit far off. One's an attraction and the other is a mode of Disney transportation. But I think just for the comparison of like, look how far we've come, I think that would be pretty neat.
yeah. And, you know, the one that was actually in the parks, it was very interesting. I mean, I remember as a kid doing it and, you know, being able to look out over the park and kind of get this whole unique view. Because, you know, I think it's one of the cool things about, you know, Magic Kingdom is that, you know, all different lands are separated and have their own theme. But being able to go up there and kind of like look over and see the whole park and see all the theming kind of at once, it was a really unique perspective. And that is something that I miss. I understand where it doesn't really have a place in the parks so much anymore. But it is still one that I kind of wish was around. But we got some cool bathrooms.
I mean, I guess that's a fair trade-off, sure.
One that I have on here is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I think that one will probably forever hold the top spot of like attractions that I wish I would have done.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
This is one that's like just fascinating to look at because it really does, in retrospect, feel very ahead of its time.
I mean, I feel like you could put out a very similar attraction to what was there in the original 20,000 Leagues, and it still feel like groundbreaking because I don't feel like there's any other attraction, that it in a way it like actually puts you in the setting that it's trying to emulate. It actually takes you at least partially underwater, which is like that is so cool to me. I don't know. This is one, if any attraction I could go back in time and ride, this would be for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's a plug again for that really cool article. I think I sent it to y'all before about the mermaids, the girl who played a mermaid at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
And like right when they opened, people should go read that. Just
that was
saying.
a really cool article. I'm happy you found that and shared it with us. Do you have any other ones you want to share, Kirsten?
As far as Disneyland, I put Tower of Terror before the refurb just because, I'm a completionist. And then Disney World, I put River Country.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. That's also the like fascinating one of like has such lore behind it.
Yeah. What about y'all? What else do y'all have?
All right, here's my hot take one. I have Horizons on here, and I knew it was going to come up at some point, so I threw it out there. I specifically want to experience this attraction just to see if it is worth the hype that it has around it. And I know that a lot of people talk it up as like Carousel of Progress Part 2, and I love Carousel of Progress, but I also feel like at the end of its life, it probably didn't hold up very well. Obviously, there's a reason that it closed other than Disney wanting to put something else there. And I just really want to experience this attraction just to see if it was like as good as everyone says it was.
That's a good point, because I think this is the like in the the like deep Disney fandom, like that attraction that everybody like looks at with rose tinted glasses, and maybe it was that great, maybe it wasn't. I honestly, I might have done this as a kid when I was very, very young, but it was obviously not to a point where I remember it. But this is one that I too would love to go back and see if it's as good as they're saying.
And like the funny thing for me is I've watched the ride through videos. I've looked at the, I've done all of those things that everybody's like, but you just don't understand. And like, obviously I don't, because I didn't ride it or I didn't experience the attraction for myself. But I almost wonder if it's just because of like the nostalgia or like you said, the rose tinted glasses, that like, that's the reason that everybody loves it so much.
I feel like that has to be at least a part of it, because it's like every time they take out a Disney attraction, there's a huge uproar of people that are crying foul at Disney for destroying a beloved attraction, and it seems like it's that way no matter how good of an attraction it is. But it also seems to die down kind of quickly after it goes. And like Horizons, that hasn't really happened with, like, people still to this day talk about how much they miss it. So maybe it really was.
You say that, but I didn't hear any crying when Stitch's Great Escape closed.
That's different.
Oh.
I know we kind of talked about it ad nauseum last week, but the original Journey into Imagination, that's definitely one that I would love to experience.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put in like an amendum here and say all of original Epcot, just because a lot of that like is stuff obviously I didn't get to experience. So in the same thing as like, I would love to experience Journey into Imagination, because that ride actually has the like, it feels like it has the spirit of imagination tied to it. I feel like all of that would be really neat to experience with like Epcot on opening day.
That's a really good point that you make too. And, I still love Epcot now, but I don't think anybody can argue that it's like as cohesive as the original iteration of it is. And I think that's a good point. Like, I think there's a lot to be said to being able to go back and see it kind of like as the Imagineers had it planned, as this actual World's Fair that you were getting to experience. Whereas now things seem kind of coupled together.
I had to kind of like deeply think about things that I had experienced because like I had that same thought where I was like, oh, a lot of like older Epcot stuff would be really cool to look at. But then it's like, I don't remember if I did anything in Wonders of Life at all. But if I didn't, I would like to have experienced that pavilion because that feels very much like out in left field for, you know, the Disney parks today, but it ties in very well with the theming of Epcot.
Yeah.
If y'all,
But
I
I
feel
definitely would
go if
Go
it's like experiencing Epcot on opening day. I feel like I would go even further back and say like would want to experience it like how Walt envisioned it, you know, just because like
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
for
we all
sure.
know that Walt's death obviously derailed Epcot to a huge degree, which I always just feel like really sad about, you know. But oh well.
I don't know. I feel like we've talked about this before too. I feel like Walt's idea of Epcot was so far out there that it never could have actually happened.
I agree with that. I mean, it is nice to think, and I do agree that if anybody could have pulled it off, it would have been Walt, but he was shooting high. But you know what? He did that his whole life, and a lot of it worked out. So maybe.
It was just such a different time.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's it for my list for the most part. I'm sure something will come up off the top of my head, but
One that I had that I guess I don't know if we really consider this an attraction, but Club Villain. And I hate that Beth's not here because I know she got to do it and could probably comment a lot on it, but I kind of wish that there were more of these somewhat smaller like nighttime events. Like I love Very Merry and I love Not So Scary. But you know, even though they are limited ticket events, they're still usually really popular and kind of
Yeah.
crowded at sometimes. But I would love, you know, and they make a big to do about themselves. I would love something that's kind of like smaller like this, just sprinkled out throughout the year. I think it would be very cool for Disney to do.
yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
agree.
Club Villain was very low key too.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, Kirsten?
I just said I agreed that like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they could do so much with that, especially with like the number of adult fans they have. You know, I know they want it to be a park for families, and I think it generally succeeds at that. But there is like this huge market for, you know, young people who would totally pay for stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I have to wonder if we're like away from the point of getting smaller hard ticket events like this, because like I was saying before, like Club Villain was very low key and they didn't really put a lot of like they did advertise it but not as heavily as they do for like the Halloween party and Christmas party. And I don't know if that was because it was a very small event or what, but I almost wish that they would go back to doing some stuff like this if they are going to continue the hard ticket event things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of the point where when Disney does do these after hours events, they're just going to do big stuff, you know, like they've been doing because they've shown that that's what makes money. So I don't really know how financially successful Club Villain was for them to like put the effort into doing it if it wasn't going to be a lot of ticket sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So what else do you guys have? Anything?
I
else?
have one that is kind of I want to have experienced it, but at the same time I don't know if I would have really wanted to do it, which was Here Comes the Muppets. I think it would have forever scarred me. I might not be as big of a Muppet fan as I am now, but it's part of Muppets at Disney World. So I wish I would have done it.
And I know, I guess, kind of to take the Kirsten point here and say to take a step even further back, experience the actual Muppets Land we were supposed to get in Hollywood Studios.
Gosh,
again, one of the biggest travesties at Disney World.
that might be the biggest. That's a big one for sure, man. To think of what that could have been. That's depressing.
Do you have any other ones, Kirsten?
Yeah, I put Disney Quest, and I feel like that's another one where if they put in the effort, that is something that could be like so cool, especially for like teenagers and young people, like because there is like there's constant technology that's improving, and I wish that I'd been able to experience it when I was young. Like the first time I went when I was 13 or something, I think I would have thought it was really cool. But it's another thing that I feel like they could do a lot with. I mean, that's not what we're talking about tonight. So I'll just say like Disney Quest.
Well,
no, but that's a good point. Like,
that's a really good point. And honestly, it always boggles my mind that they didn't try to do anything updated with it, because like how popular was the Void when that opened? They literally could have done some kind of VR thing. They could have done some kind of interactive experience, but I think at the point that it got killed, there was just like so much that would have needed to be done there. I mean, we got the NBA experience, which that's not saying much.
But the weirdest thing to me is when they closed it. I feel like almost if they would have opened Disney Quest later, like the way that Disney Springs kind of like evolved and it's become this whole almost like miniature, like I don't want to say park, but it is like it's a thing that people specifically will go to now.
I would say Disney Springs is a park. It's more of a full day park than like Hollywood Studios is. So give it some credit.
But so like it's surprising to me that like as Disney Springs is like kind of blossoming and turning into that actual thing that people are going to make a whole day out of to go to, is when Disney Quest closes. And yeah, I think like Kirsten said, if you keep updating the technology just a little bit here and there to keep it fresh, like I feel like that's a thing that people would have really gone to while they were at Disney Springs.
Yeah. Was there something specific that you wanted to experience in Disney Quest, Kirsten, or just like as a whole?
No, just it as a whole. And the same thing with, I also had Pleasure Island. Like whenever I had, whenever I was there, I guess as like as a CPer and they didn't have it anymore. Like that's something, again, where they have like this huge market, that they're kind of missing out on. But, yeah, so Pleasure Island, I would have loved to experience that.
That's one that I'm like, I don't understand why. Like, I get why it closed kind of, but I feel like Brian said, the timing for Disney Springs and it closing kind of feels interesting, because now as Disney Springs is becoming a full day park and it's like open, later than the other parks, having a place where it's an adults only section kind of feels almost like it should be a thing.
Yeah, like it's weird. They almost, killed it off and then kind of did the same thing again, but just without that kind of theming.
Yeah.
I would love for there to be just like a mini section of Disney Springs now that was Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
I wish I got to experience the Adventures Club specifically. If we're taking like a single part of Pleasure Island, I think that that's the part that I would have enjoyed the most. I also think that it fits very well with a lot of the stuff that's there, so they could have kept that around.
Mm-hmm. And, you get a couple more sea references in there. It's always good.
Can't go wrong with that.
Mm-mm.
Is there, and do you guys have any other ones? Because I have a question that I want to pose to you that's not necessarily on topic, but kind of is.
I don't think I have any more that I didn't get to experience.
So
That's all I have.
the question I kind of want to drop on you guys is, if you could experience one attraction that you did experience but can't anymore, just one more time, what would that be? And Kirsten wishes does not count.
What?
Because I know that's where you're going to go with this. That's not an attraction. That's a fireworks show. Okay, it can count.
That was the most intense scoff I've ever heard.
So one thing
Listen,
that
she may hate me more.
experienced before that we want to experience again.
Yeah, just any attraction. But like, if you could go back in time, ride one attraction, and that's it. That's the experience you get to have. What would it be?
That we've already done or that we haven't done?
I would say let's do both. Do one that you've already done and then one that you haven't done.
This is hard.
I'll start us off because since this is my question and I kind of have an answer for my part of it at least. For my attraction that I've done before, I think Great Movie Ride would be the attraction that I would want to go back and ride again, because to me that feels like such a good attraction that I like honestly genuinely like really miss. I loved that it had two different shows so that they could maintain a higher amount of people that could go through it. I liked that you could experience it in a different way depending on which person boarded your vehicle. There were some misses. I think some sections of the ride weren't that great, but then you also have things like the Wicked Witch animatronic, which were just incredible. I think for me, it has all of the parts that I love in a lot of Disney attractions in one attraction.
The movie at the end, like with all the clips.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know, Brian, do you have anything? I'm stalling.
Sorry, I should have given you guys some time on this question.
I have two and one probably doesn't count, but first one is very nostalgic just for me. I'm going to say Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It was like my absolute favorite ride as a kid, and I really don't understand why, but it was. And I kind of just want to go back and experience it again and see if it's still, I know it's not going to hold up like objectively as an attraction, because I have gone back and seen the ride through videos a lot, and I'm like, man, why did I like this so much as a kid? This is such a cheesy attraction. But I would love it just for that, to go back and kind of experience it and see if I like it as much as I did as a kid.
That's one that I never got to experience too, and I almost kind of wish I did.
This doesn't really fit
Probably
the brief.
The only attraction.
What was that, Kirsten?
I was gonna say this doesn't really quite fit your brief, but whatever. If I can't use wishes, use this. I get, like, for us, Disney is so much about nostalgia, right? And like being in a place where you just don't have to worry, or at least that's it for me, right? It's like what Walt wanted. Like, it's the one place in the world where you can kind of just not think about all of your problems. Honestly, I don't care what attraction. If I could go back just and do like one more thing with my mother-in-law, I would totally do that. I would pick the longest attraction there is, like Ellen's Energy Adventure, and just do like one more thing with her.
I think that counts. I think that really does count.
Or wishes.
The
best of both worlds, my mother-in-law and wishes.
But I do think you said it best, though, that like Disney is, for a lot of us, about like escapism, in the sense that like you go in and you're in this bubble where you don't have to worry. And that really is it. So any that you didn't get to ride, if you could go back and do just one.
Well, I have one more that I did get to experience, but I feel like it's cheating because you would have said it too if it was allowed. But I want to say the Osborne Lights, because
I was going to say that
is
too.
One that I only got to do it once, but I am so very glad that I did that.
Yeah.
I only did it once also, and I feel like it was definitely like kind of rushed and busy, and I would have loved to do it before we had known like this is our only chance.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one thing that I very much regret, like in terms of like Disney regrets. Obviously I've talked like before about how much I love the Osborne lights and how much I, really miss them. When they closed them down the last year that they were open, I was on Tower of Terror, and that was the last time that I actually like physically saw them, was from the drop of Tower of Terror, because as we were going over to them, they told us that the park was closing for a private event. And I was like, oh, great. So I don't even get to experience this for the last time. So biggest Disney regret is that I was there the last, well, I guess it was the year before they closed. But the last time I saw them, I didn't actually get to see them.
Yeah, that sucks.
So,
well, now I'm depressed.
I like, do you guys have anything like at Disney that you experienced but don't remember experiencing? I know we kind of talked about like all that stuff too, but I was flipping through some pictures the other day, and apparently I went to Epcot during like the festival of the holidays or whatever it was, when they used to do all of their lights there too. And I have no memories of that one.
There's probably so much. Like if I really went through and looked at all the pictures when I was a little kid.
Yeah, you probably got the most.
That is kind of a funny thing. Like you look at it now, and Disney like has obviously left such a big impression on us. But like to think that, yeah, I probably experienced all this stuff that probably had a big impression on me, but I don't even realize it, and I don't hold it like consciously because I was a little kid.
I was looking at old pictures the other day. I'll have to post them on somewhere. But like in the background of a picture of like my mom and my grandma, there's a sign that says "Meet Figment," and I was like, "Wow, that really dates this one."
I'll say, Allie, our guest that we had on for the college program, whenever we first met and moved in together, we realized that we had actually been to Disney World at the exact same time. I think our senior years in high school. And so we like went back and looked through all of our pictures, and like we're looking for each other in the background. So I'll say that it would have been really cool if we had found each other, but just to know that like we were there at the same time and like possibly walked by each other. And like,
that's such a weird feeling. That's I don't know, but that was a thought too, because I saw pictures of the lights, that Figment thing, and there was something else, and I can't remember what it was. But I was like, wow, I did ride that, or I did experience that. And it's such a weird feeling that you're like, okay, I thought I didn't have a memory of this, but I guess it is somewhere.
It's so weird, like just not going as a child and realizing that Eli's going to be probably like you, Brian, and like just have that as like part of his life experience, going to Disney World. Oh, Will left and he's awake. I can hear him. About to beat this boy. Anyway, side note, just realizing that he's going to be like one of those people who like remembers it forever.
I wonder how much of my like just subconscious being has been shaped by going to Disney my whole life.
Yeah. We turned out okay.
We'll have to do,
except for the whole Country Bears thing.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
I'm surprised you didn't put the Country Bear holiday thing.
I've seen the videos of it, and I worry that it would be too much like the other overlays that we talked about. If it, I would have looked at it with kind of a negative view because I like Country Bears so much.
I almost wish that I could do like under new management one more time, just to be like, to experience it again, not because I liked it, but because I remember it being a dumpster fire. And I don't know if it's like me putting that spin on it because it's got such like a place in the Disney fandom for not being good.
No, man, I think it was just objectively a dumpster fire, and that's okay.
Well, I don't have anything else. If you guys want to wrap this week up a little early, I think that's okay. Uh,
Sounds good with me, unless y'all got something.